Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about the AMC all-time high, the $55 target, the biggest squeeze ever, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. Just in, AMC short interest is approaching an all-time high at 25% with over 100 million shares sold short. At the same time, AMC fails to deliver are also nearing record levels, with the FTDs being hitting 18.09 million by February 27th, 2026. So there's multiple things to be talking about here. Firstly, what we know about the 25% is that this has been the minimum. This has been what's been reported. We've already seen from other data. We had Easy Peasy Trading also giving out the data of the real synthetic short interest to be over 300% for AMC. And so one of the things we've realized is that whenever we're looking at these self-reported percentage being 25, we know that that is not accurate. However, we can use it to judge whether or not they've made more synthetic short positions. So if we even seeing the short interest here to be increasing, we know that the synthetic short positions are also increasing as well. One of the things I've always said is that this is the minimum of the minimum. I normally take it and times 10 at the very minimum to see what the real short interest is. And now with what we've seen with the data that has been given to us, it looks like we may have to times 20, 50, or potentially even 100 to get the real actual short interest percentage for AMC. So wherever we're looking at 25 right now, which we've already known to be at 300, at 400, and this was when the short interest wasn't even at 25%. We already know that they are synthetically shorting AMC. So recently, as we see AMC is going down below $1, we've also seen the increase in synthetic short pressure. So it makes sense to why we are seeing the price decreasing. If you're looking for the reasoning for why we're seeing the price going down, it's because the synthetic short interest has increased largely. Once again, the same thing with FTDs, which FTDs is one of the data being used to actually determine what the synthetic short interest is. So here are multiple factors that we can look at as opposed to why the price is going down and how the short synthetic interest is, of course, going up. If you want to take a look at another piece of data, AMC stock trading 2026 year to date, 57 trading days, 2.18 billion AMC shares traded. At the start of the trading year, we saw 156. It closed today at 0.99. Routinely 70 to 90% center off exchange. If using 75% average, 1.5 billion off exchange. So since the trading days, we had over 2.1 billion shares traded, which is already a crazy amount considering the fact that the float has been locked up by the apes, considering we're not actively selling shares and the only thing we are buying, the only thing we are doing is buying shares, yet we saw 1.2 billion volume. Firstly, that is of course the high frequency trading algorithm used by the hedge funds. But secondly is the fact that we know we are actively buying. And already, if we use the fact that no apes, or at least 99% of apes, haven't sold their shares, it would seem to be that 2.18 billion synthetic shares has already been created this synthetic years because people are buying. Now, granted, not all 2.1 billion is buying, is of course mixed with selling as well. But even then, if even 50% of that is buying, which we know with the inflow outflow of capital is that it's actually a higher percentage, at least 1 billion synthetic shares has already been created this year. But more importantly, I think what we can realize is that as we're seeing 1.5 billion rooted off exchange, it looks like these are all the buy orders. We've already seen the dark pool, how the majority of the trades is because is buy orders. And so given that we're seeing a 75% average, seeing that we are seeing 1.5 billion off exchange, it looks like that this is how many synthetic shares was created, 1.5 billion. Now, the reason they were created was because they were forced to by us, by the apes, because we're buying these shares. And then as we're seeing 1.5 billion shares being bought, we're also seeing them throwing it into the dark pool, hence not having an effect on the price. So one of the biggest questions people have always asked is, if people are buying AMC, why is the price going down? Well, we just shown you with the synthetic short interest. We're now showing you the 70 to 90% off exchange. That's the crazy amount. That's the reason for why we don't see price action on AMC. Now, there's a big reason for why they're doing this, because AMC has always shown how valuable it can be. Remember that AMC maintained an intrinsic value between 55 to 66 per share for 2 years straight. And this was when we were already extremely undervalued. As you can see on the video here, this is what we're looking at. And so it is without a doubt that AMC has been showing extreme value. Apes knows that, institutions knows that, is why we've been seeing constant buying. If you take a look at the inflow of AMC for the last 5 years, you will see that more capital have come in to buy AMC than capital that are actually selling AMC. You can even see the history conclusion, very attractive. It's because people are buying AMC. It's because people actually realize what the value of AMC should be. But because we're faced with off exchange, because we're faced with these constant FTDs, we're not actually seeing that. In terms of this year, it's going to be very close. We're on track for 1.7 billion plus Q1. We'll end up very close to beating Q1 of 2023 for the highest Q1 post-pandemic. And so this is the biggest reason for why people realize that AMC should be worth $50, $55 to $66. It's because we are doing so well. It's because we are growing. We're getting bigger and bigger every single year. AMC is becoming more and more efficient. The box office is growing as well, and all of these things added together will just showcase to why AMC would make more profit. We're already seeing our revenue increase, we're seeing the operational costs going down, we're seeing the debt reducing as well, and so from the fundamental perspective, we are doing everything well. We are all seeing how it's increasing, how it's improving, and how it's going to get even better. Yes, there are areas where we could do even better, but that applies to every company out there. In terms of major mistakes that are being made, I don't see any. And so this is how I know that in the next few quarters, in the next few months, and next few years, AMC is going to be the best it will ever be. And this is why we're seeing how the shorts who are against AMC are begging to have Adam Aaron step down so they can put in the CEO of their own, whom will let the company fail and go bankrupt. So the reason people who are saying this, and again why I want to address this, is because people are not happy with Adam Aaron. Now, of course, I can understand why people are frustrated if you're seeing the price of your investment going down, and it's understandable for you to be frustrated. But people are undermining what Adam Aaron has done. They have talked about how because Adam Aaron has not yet put AMC into the 100, he is a bad CEO. But you have to realize, ultimately, Adam Aaron prevented AMC from going bankrupt. And that should be the most important factor, because had AMC go into bankruptcy, firstly, there won't even be a squeeze play anymore. But secondly, had AMC gone to bankruptcy, every one of your investment would have gone to zero. At the very least, right now, you still have your investment, you still have a future. But if AMC were to go bankrupt, you would have lost every single bit of your investment. And that's the biggest thing that I think Adam Aaron could have done. Yes, there are better things that he can do. There are better things that AMC can do. There are always going to be better decisions. But the decisions that they are making right now has proved to be correct, has proved to be working, and has put AMC in a good road. And that's ultimately what we want to see. There will be improvements, and we will see that in the future. Now, that was only a bit of kind of the 1% of people who are investing in AMC. The other 99% are obviously taking advantage of this artificial price suppression on the AMC stock price. We are seeing it at an extreme discount. And what we have to realize is that this is going to potentially be the cheapest price you can ever get AMC at. Both because of the squeeze, but also because fundamentally AMC is projected to be higher. The valuation of AMC is higher, especially with what they have ready for in the future. And people see, again, just another example of how people are obviously realizing that this is the current discount price, especially with how we talked about this yesterday, AMC to open 65 ScreenX and 40X locations worldwide. Just another example of how AMC is going to grow, especially how we're captivating the market share at times like this, where we're seeing major movies coming out who are doing extremely well in the box office. And one of the things we've talked about was how a data has been surveyed, which shows that people want premium theater. And what AMC is doing right now is creating premium theater. And that's exactly what we want to see. You can see from this user, I just added another 30,000 shares of AMC. I thought it was cheap at $5. On the one is mind-blowing. And this is what I'm talking about with how apes are constantly buying this. Apes are not thinking that this is now a panic, I should be selling, but instead they're viewing this as the very opposite of this is a great opportunity, I'm buying in. And if you take a look at how many retail investors there are in AMC, the last official count from AMC itself puts it at 1.8 billion global AIC, which is the AMC Investor Connect as of December 31st. And so this is what we're saying. Now, bear in mind that this is the very minimum investors in AMC. So at 1.8 million, we need 324 shares each to hold up the float. This user here just bought in one batch 30,000 shares, not even including his previous existing shares of AMC. And we talked about each person only needs to own 324. So if we ask ourselves, has the share been bought up many times over? Yes, it has. And going back to what we said at the very start, 1.5 billion shares seemingly has already been created this trading year so far. And this goes back to what we talked about as well in terms of why I'm not worried about dilution, about share offering, because even if Adam Aron were to give out all 550 million shares towards a short seller, there are still billions of synthetic shares that exist out there. If we take a look at the RSI, you can see how it's been nuked. And so the room, and for people who potentially use RSI to trade, now I personally don't do that, but I understand from looking at some of the data is that when RSI is in the lows like this, it typically has a massive run up, and that's what we're expecting for AMC as well. And then kind of the ultimate thing on this is that shorts are trapped. What we can see is a potential reverse split. Now, I will talk about this maybe in another video, but I want to talk about the next part, which is important, which is the float shrinks, the liquidity tightens, and the exit doors get smaller. When supply disappears, pressure explodes. Now, it's essentially talking about how we can easily get rid of the supply for the short sellers, how when the pressure all adds up, which it already is right now, but more importantly, when it explodes, how big this can get. And this is something that needs to be looked at as well. This is something we need to pay close attention to. Another big thing is looking at GME. Now, this is a crazy number. We're looking at the GME's coin price to be at $22 trillion. Now, can I explain this? No. At this point, no one has any idea what's happening with this. We can only think that it's to do with the naked short of GME because we've seen how these tokens have been used in the past. Now, another reason for why we're saying this is because at the time of how these tokens are going up in price, firstly, we're looking at GameStop quick ratio and current ratio is better than all 500 S&P companies and all 100 NASDAQ companies by more than 50%. So fundamentally, they are doing extremely well. And this is the first thing, because when they're doing fundamentally well, they will attract investors. So potentially why we're seeing the price go up. The second thing is how right now the mainstream media is now connecting the GME eBay merger and acquisition rumors, suggesting GameStop can use debt, equity, and converts to sweep up the auction giant. So another big talk in terms of GME buying eBay, and this is going into the mainstream media as well now. And so we're seeing multiple reasons for why we're seeing extreme volatility in this GameStop coin, especially with everything that's going on right now. Now, something I want to talk about is firstly, the short sellers. We're seeing UBS and they're facing liquidity issues. Now, this is not surprising in terms of everything that's been going on. And now knowing this, we're going to be seeing volatility in the basket again, the basket of AMC and GME swaps. Another big thing, we saw $1 trillion being raised from the stock market today. Now, recently, you would have seen plenty of this new 1 trillion wiped, 1 trillion added, 2 trillion wiped, 1 trillion added. You would have seen plenty of these news recently, but that just talks exactly about how volatile the market is right now. And the last time we saw volatility like this, we saw many hedge fund pods actually blowing up and losing money. And so potentially we're seeing this right now as well. Another big thing has been the private credit, and we talked about this. And the reason why this is important is because now they're facing the problems right now. They're trying to sell it off, but this is the problem that they're facing. As always, this is Financial Advisor. Do take out a grain of salt. Make sure you do your own due diligence research, and I'll catch you guys next time.